The small town lay in ruins, once filled with laughter and the smell of freshly baked bread from the corner bakery. Now it was nothing more than rubble and dust, a ghost of what it used to be. Amidst the broken walls and cracked streets, an 8-year-old girl named Amira wandered barefoot, holding tightly onto a torn doll. She had lost her home, her friends, and worst of all, her parents. The only thing left was her grandmother, a frail woman who hummed lullabies at night to help her fall asleep in the dark, cold shelter. Amira didn't understand why the war had come, why her world had been stolen, or why silence now filled the streets where joy once echoed. But in her tiny heart, she carried something that had not been destroyed, her voice. Whenever she sang to her grandmother, even for a few moments, the pain softened, and the ruins seemed to vanish. Her grandmother told her, "Your voice is stronger than the bombs. One day, it will heal not only you, but others too." Amira didn't know what that meant, but she believed her. Weeks later, aid workers arrived, bringing food, blankets, and news of a children's singing competition in the nearby city. At first, Amira thought it was impossible. She had no fancy clothes, no instruments, and no family to cheer her on. But her grandmother held her trembling hands and whispered, "Sing for those we lost. Sing so the world knows we lived." With nothing more than courage and her cracked shoes, Amira traveled with the volunteers to the city. The journey was overwhelming, the streets were alive again, crowded with people, glowing lights, and music blasting from speakers. For Amira, it felt like another planet, far removed from her shattered hometown. When she saw the stage, her heart pounded. Children in colorful dresses rehearsed, families clapped proudly, and judges with polished suits sat waiting. She wanted to run away, but something inside reminded her of her grandmother's words. Her song wasn't about winning. It was about telling the world her story. When Amira's name was called, the hall went quiet. She stepped onto the stage in her faded dress, clutching her doll as if it were her only anchor. The judges exchanged uncertain looks. This small girl looked too fragile, too broken. The audience murmured. But then, as the music started, Amira closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice was soft at first, trembling like a candle flame in the wind. She sang of the nights without stars, of the sound of sirens and bombs, of the silence after loss. Each word was raw, carrying the weight of every tear she had cried. The hall grew still. The audience forgot they were in a competition. Her voice rose, clear and powerful, as if she were lifting the broken world with her song. Judges who had listened to countless singers before leaned forward, their eyes wide, their pens motionless. Some in the crowd wept silently. This was not just music. It was truth, carried in the fragile voice of a child who had seen. When the last note faded, the silence that followed was heavier than thunder. For a moment, no one moved. Then the hall erupted in applause so powerful it shook the walls. People stood on their feet, clapping, crying, shouting her name. The judges wiped their eyes, visibly shaken. One leaned forward and whispered into his microphone, this is not just a song. This is a cry for peace." Amira, overwhelmed, hugged her doll and looked toward the back of the hall, imagining her grandmother smiling proudly. For the first time since the war began, she felt hope. News of her performance spread like wildfire, clips of her song went viral, millions watched online, and her voice became a symbol of resilience. Across the world, people saw not just an 8-year-old singing, but a reminder of what war steals from children. Letters and messages of love poured in from strangers who called her their little sister, their daughter, their beacon of hope. After the competition, Amira didn't return to the ruins. She stayed in the city with her grandmother, invited to sing at peace concerts and humanitarian events. Every time she sang, she carried the memories of her parents and her destroyed hometown, but instead of drowning in grief, she turned it into strength. She realized her grandmother had been right, her voice was stronger than the bombs. It could not bring back what she had lost, but it could keep the memory of love alive, and it could remind the world that children deserve laughter instead of war. On the night she sang again at a global peace summit, standing in front of leaders and millions watching on television, she whispered before starting, "This song is for every child who lost their home, and for every child who still dreams." And as her voice soared across the hall, even the most powerful people listened with tears in their eyes. War had taken everything from her, but her song gave the world something it had forgotten: hope.